The Eurasian Times, 22nd of February 2023, according to evidence found by Canada in the north, Chinese spy buoys may be tracking ships in the area. China is at full-scale war with the rest of the world in an attempt to rise to the status of a superpower and take control of it. It has no respect for moral principles or appropriate conduct and is prepared to employ any means necessary to achieve this. A new report has revealed that the Canadian military captured a Chinese monitoring buoy in the Arctic Ocean, days after a U.S. fighter aircraft shot down an alleged Chinese spy balloon that had flown over Canada and into American airspace. As part of Operation Limpid, a continuous effort to provide early detection of threats to Canada's security by its military forces, the Canadian military found and recovered Chinese monitoring buoys from the Arctic, according to the Globe and Mail. In light of the disclosure, which comes just weeks after the U.S. Air Force and Royal Canadian Air Force allegedly shot down a Chinese spy balloon, Beijing's surveillance activities will likely be scrutinized again. Before traveling over U.S. territory, the balloon had passed over Canada and Alaska. The Canadian military or administration has not acknowledged the retrieved buoys used for surveillance. The dual-purpose monitoring buoys immediately sparked rumors that they may have been placed for spying after the announcement. In addition to performing the functions of more conventional sensing and navigational equipment, a monitoring buoy is typically used as a locator or warning point for the boats. However, the military frequently uses these buoys for information gathering and surveillance missions worldwide. Daniel Leboutillier, the Director of Media Relations at the Department of National Defense, verified the interception and subsequent retrieval but withheld further information due to the situation's sensitivity. He added that the Canadian Armed Forces, CAF, and the Department of National Defense, DND, know China's recent efforts to perform surveillance operations using dual-purpose technologies in Canadian airspace and maritime approaches. Retired Lieutenant General Michael Day made a more intriguing remark, who asserted that these Chinese buoys would probably be used to gauge ice and seafloor thickness and monitor U.S. nuclear submarine activity in the Arctic. Like most countries, China is intrigued by the critical changes occurring up north. Although they lack an ice-bound harbor, their ice-breaking fleet is expanding quickly. It is also important to note that several nations, including China, Russia, and the United States, are increasing their influence in the Arctic due to climate change, melting glaciers and opening up more waterways for travel. Chinese ships would journey through the Arctic much more quickly than around the southern tip of South America, as Lieutenant General Day pointed out. The Lieutenant General continued by saying that Beijing could monitor the U.S. and Canadian armed forces if it had an Arctic footprint. China has ambitions in the north. The 8 sovereign nations that make up the Arctic, Canada, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, Russia, Sweden, and the United States, have a sizable impact on this crucial geographic space. China's desire to join them has been repeatedly warned about by military and policy specialists. According to the Brookings Institute, China has dispatched high-level officials to the region 33 times over the past 20 years, engaged or joined the majority of the key Arctic institutions, attempted to establish half a dozen scientific facilities in Arctic states, pursued several projects with conceivable dual-use economic benefits, expanded the size of its icebreaker fleet, and even dispatched naval vessels. As part of the Polar Silk Road Initiative, China declared in 2018 that it meant to expand the Belt and Road project into the Arctic and establish maritime lines. In its first white paper on Arctic policy, China declared that it would urge companies to build infrastructure and make commercial trial voyages, paving the way for maritime routes through the Arctic that would make up a Polar Silk Road. Since then, it has continually tried to increase its influence in the area. Although the United States and other NATO allies have identified and accepted Russia as the main threat in the Arctic, China is quickly catching up. Chinese military analysts advocated for greater coordination between China and Russia, adding to the already significant Russian threat in the Arctic. According to a report in Global Times that cited these experts, cooperation regarding the Arctic economic passage suits the interests of both sides and can be a win-win situation for both, as it will help China shorten transportation times and secure energy supplies while also assisting Russia in obtaining funding, technical assistance, and infrastructure support for its Arctic projects. An expanded Chinese influence, however, could lead to the emergence of yet another flashpoint between Beijing and the West. For instance, earlier this month, Norway's domestic intelligence agency warned that Chinese investments in businesses and real estate in the high north could be related to those countries' espionage activities in the Arctic. Thus, the Canadian military's finding of monitoring buoys may trigger new diplomatic tensions.